show you something real heavy. The Arabs, like in Muhammad, they are not prophets. The Lord is not dealing with them. They ain't prophesied nothing. Muhammad was a prophet. Name one prophecy that Muhammad gave. Wait, stand down, bro. Where does it say it? Give me one prophecy.
So the prophet foretold this. قال يكون بعد أئمة لا يقتدون بخدعي ولا يستنون بالسنة وسيقوم فيهم رجال قلوبهم قلوب الشياطين في جثمان إنس. There will be leaders after me who will not be led by my guidance and who will not adopt my ways. There will be among them men who have the hearts of devils in the bodies of human beings. Prophecy fulfilled.
And then wherever that boat landed, whoever bought us, he said we're going to serve other gods. Our fathers didn't know Islam. They didn't know about Muhammad. Remember, he comes 600 years after Christ.
So as usual, our people telling lies. The Israelites are lying, and we'll prove that.
Jews were people with scriptures who had knowledge that we did not. Okay? There was always enmity between us and them, and if ever we bested them in some way that they disliked, they would tell us, the time is near for a prophet. He will now be sent, and with him we will kill you just as Ad and Iram were killed. Let's go down a little further. The Jews were at Kebar, battling Gatafan. But whenever battle was joined, the Jews of Kebar were defeated. So the Jews resorted to this prayer, saying, O Allah, we will ask you by Muhammad's rightness, the prophet, the Ummi, the unlettered, whom you promised us you would send at the end of time, if you will give us victory over them. The report went on to say that when they met in battle and they spoke this prayer, they defeated Gatafan. Yet when the prophet was sent, they disbelieved in him. And so Allah Almighty and glorious is He revealed the words. They formally prayed for victory against those who disbelieved.
Ibn Ishaq's account relates that while Tuba, and Tuba is the name that the Himyars called their king. Okay, the Himyars were sons of Saba, or as we know, Sheba. So Ibn Ishaq's account relates that while Tuba was engaged in his fighting against them, speaking of the Jews, okay, because it says here that the Tuba's anger was directed only against the Jews, okay. Let's get into the meat of the story. Ibn Ishaq's account relates that while Tuba was engaged in his fighting against them, two Jewish rabbis came to him. They were both deeply learned men from Banu Qurayza. This is a Jewish tribe from Arabia. And these were the descendants of Lawi. They were of the priestly class from the Kohanim. When they heard how he intended to destroy the city and its inhabitants, they told him, O king, do not do this. Unless you adopt a different course from that you intend, you will be prevented from accomplishing it, and we will not be able to save you from swift retribution. Tuba asked why this was so, and they replied, this is where a prophet will migrate. He will go forth from this holy sanctuary from Quraysh in times to come, and this shall be his home and abode. And they were talking about the city of Medina. Let the wilderness and its towns raise their voice. Let the settlements where Kedar lives rejoice. Let the people of Selah sing for joy. Let them shout from the mountaintops. The Lord will march out like a champion, like a warrior. He will stir up his zeal. With a shout, he will raise the battle cry and will triumph over his enemies. Let's take a look at where Selah is in Arabia. So we can see clearly that Selah is a mountain in Medina, in modern Saudi Arabia. Mount Selah is the district of the 7 mosques in the city of Medina, municipality in Saudi Arabia. Selah means slice, because the mountain looks as if it has been sliced several times. But we know in the Hebrew, the word Selah means rocky crag, okay? But once again, that's what a mountain is, a rock. And so we see clearly that the Prophet Muhammad did come and make his abode in Medina, and this is also where he died. We also see that in the book of Isaiah, another place in the book of Isaiah says that this is what the Lord says. The products of Egypt and the merchandise of Cush and those tall Sabaeans, they will come over to you and will be yours. They will trudge behind you, coming over to you in chains. They will bow down before you and plead with you, saying, surely Allah is with you, and there is no other God. So what we mark here is that Aus and Khazraj were from the people of Saba. And this Tuba king, who would later go on to accept Judaism, he too was a son of Saba, as we know that he came from Himyar. So once again, through Muhammad, these tall Sabaeans came and fought alongside of the Prophet, and they were known as the Ansar. And this was how Judaism reached Yemen, South Arabia. And so he also says here, all the makers of idols will be put to shame and disgrace. They will go off into disgrace together. But Israel will be saved by the Lord with an everlasting salvation, and you will never be put to shame or disgrace to ages everlasting. And this is what the work of Muhammad accomplished. All those Jews who were working idolatry, they were put to shame and expelled. Many scholars dispute about Isaiah 45 because of this word here, Cyrus. Now we know that in Persian, it's pronounced Cyrus, okay? But if we go into the Hebrew, it is pronounced Quraysh, okay? So there was really no need to mispronounce or retranslate the pronunciation of Cyrus because we have all of those sounds in Hebrew. Once again, this is the controversy of this verse, but we see its fulfillment in the Hadith. This is what the Lord says to his anointed, to Quraysh, whose right hand I take hold of to subdue nations before him and to strip kings of their armor and to open doors before him. The Himyar that we're reading about were kings. Ibn Ishaq continued, thereafter Tuba left for Yemen, taking his armed men and 2 rabbis with him. On his arrival, he asked his people to adopt the religion he had embraced, but they refused until it should be put to the test of fire, as was the custom in Yemen. He went on, I was told that Abu Malik bin Thalaba bin Abu Malik al-Qurazi, that he heard Ibrahim bin Muhammad bin Talha bin Ubaid Allah say that when Tuba reached the outskirts of Yemen, Himyar intercepted him and denied him entry. They told him, you shall not enter our land. You have abandoned our faith. So Tuba called on them to embrace his new religion, proclaiming it to be better than theirs, speaking of Judaism. They asked whether he would agree to put the issue between them to the test of fire, and he agreed. He continued, there was in Yemen, as Yemenis assert, a fire they would employ to adjudicate differences. It would consume wrongdoers but not harm the innocent. And so Tuba's people and the 2 rabbis walked to the fire site. His people took their idols and carried their sacrificial offerings, while the rabbis wore their sacred books around their necks. They all sat near the spot from which the fire would emerge. When it raged towards them, they drew away and avoided it. The onlookers berated them and ordered them to endure it, and they did so until it enveloped them and consumed their idols and sacred objects, and those men of Himyar who carried them. But the 2 rabbis emerged safe, with their holy books around their necks, unharmed though their foreheads were sweating. Thereupon the Himyarites adopted their religion, and this was how Judaism began in Yemen. So as usual, our people tell me